What's up guys, Raziel here, and we've got another video for you today, and this one is about power creep. No, not that kind of power creep, but the power creep that happens in video games. This phenomenon is especially prevalent and unavoidable in any game that continues on indefinitely. So online games like ARPGs, MMORPGs are especially susceptible to this phenomenon. And even more so, we saw how hard and fast power creep can creep up on you in the theme park style of MMORPGs. Now, all of these different kinds of games have addressed power creep in different ways, and in this video, we're going to talk about it. What methods are good, what methods are okay, and which ones are fucking terrible, and also that we are likely to see Square Enix address power creep in Final Fantasy XIV for the first time really soon.
I am Raziel.
Now, if you're unfamiliar with the term power creep, you may not know what the hell I'm talking about, though I assume most of you do. However, for the sake of understanding, I'll go over it briefly. Power creep is something that occurs in online games that go on for a long time. The ever-increasing levels of the characters, the monsters, the items, until they reach ridiculous numbers and they kind of lose all meaning at that point. Developers have to find a way to kind of rein you in without completely diminishing what came before. Now, ARPGs such as Diablo 3, Path of Exile have a far easier time of handling this. They solved it by simply slowly buffing items, making items have special variants such as, ancient and primal ancient items in Diablo 3 or the giant-ass skill trees in Path of Exile. But the biggest thing they did to slow/solve power creep was to add seasons. Where when a season ends and the new season begins, you start all over and do everything all over again. And race for top places on the achievement and clear boards and things like that. Now, these patches do bring some buffs to gear and specs that were bad and in the previous season, and also nerf some of the more OP specs and builds from the previous season. And occasionally they'll throw in some new items in the world to find. Maybe a new area here and there. But overall, the game remains mostly the same from season to season. I mean, MMORPGs, though, are a completely different story. Now, in the past, the MMOs of old, didn't face this problem nearly as hard, because sandbox games pretty much have power creep at a minimum built into their foundation. I mean, take Asheron's Call, for example, which was my first MMORPG I started playing back in 1999. The level cap was 126. But your level determined very little in terms of what you could do and where you could go and what you could accomplish in the game. It wasn't even until years and a few expansions later that the level cap was increased to 275, which was long after I quit playing the game. But even if you hit cap, regardless of whether it was 126 or 275, your characters could still progress and how much stronger you could get wouldn't stop, because you could spend your XP on making your skills higher. But as you got your skills higher, the amount of XP it cost to increase said skill again would go up multiplicatively. So while you could always become stronger in the game, it slowed way the fuck down as you got higher up. In patches, they added new things to find, nothing too overpowered, added some new dungeons and new areas, and how they made the game harder was adding monsters that needed higher skills to face slowly over time. Otherwise they'd resist you or dodge your attacks, things like that. In addition, in Asheron's Call, items had no item level. They were just stats and resistances, and you could tweak them with trade skills, crafting skills, and getting the best of the best, like a perfect piece in any slot, took forever, a long time. But they didn't really face power creep on the same level. However, with theme park MMOs, we're seeing power creep come in much faster, with expansions being released that drastically increase the player's power. It's not uncommon to, solo a previous expansion's hardest bosses with relative ease. halfway through the next expansion pack, item levels drastically increase, and each expansion increases your character's overall level. Now, as we can see, what's going on right now with the World of Warcraft Shadowlands and the max level being squished back down to 60, which is what its cap was in vanilla, down from 120, which is what it is now on retail. And the numbers once again being squished down, I think for the third time now. But Blizzard is ultimately forced to do this. But I think Blizzard's systems that they have added in the expansions, such as artifact weapons in Legion, Azerite gear and corruptions and essences in BFA, and now with the Covenant system or the borrowed power systems, which these all are, that we've seen in the last few expansions, is part of another way to address power creep, I think. And a lot of people, I don't think, notice this. Now, to be fair, these systems have been met with mixed reviews, to put it mildly. But I think in this way, Blizzard hopes to solve power creep a little bit by having each expansion have a way you can progress and become eventually OP by the end of the expansion. And it won't matter because the systems that allow you to do that in that expansion are going away once the expansion is over. I know a lot of people don't like these fucking systems, and I'm on the fence about it. There's some things I like about it and I think are fun, but other things I think are very detrimental to the game. I'm not a huge fan of borrowed power, as I said in my borrowed power video, and when it goes full retard, like corruption did, it's absolutely a shit system, and I hope Blizzard learned something from it, but I doubt it.
You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
It remains to be seen how the systems and covenants in Shadowlands are going to pan out. Fingers crossed, but expectations in the fucking dirt, people. Come on, let's just look at history and hope for the best, expect the worst. Now, other theme park MMOs have tried to address this in other ways, such as Elder Scrolls Online, how they made all the enemies, no matter where they are in the game, scale to your level, which, this is just my personal opinion, I think it's dumb as fuck and defeats the purpose of RPG power gains in the first place, but that's just me. And by adding master levels with expansions instead of core player levels every single time, which I think adding a system like the master level system is effective. It's a decent way to address the issue. But while on this topic, I think levels, like the actual character levels in MMORPGs, have run their course and developers need to create a new system. Excuse me, because leveling at this point, and it has been for a long time, is just a means to an end, a race to the finish. No one cares about it. We can't keep getting into these insane base levels and then squishing it back down every 10 to 15 years. Now, I have several ideas of how to fix the character level issue, but I won't go into those in this video. They aren't mature enough ideas. That will definitely be a video topic for another day. Then you have really shitty games by shit developers like Destiny 2, whose bright idea to solve power creep is to just make all the gear you got so far shit and worthless. So you're forced each season or expansion to refarm the same stupid shit, like the exact same items with the same name and the same look. It's so dumb. And all I can say about that is I hope you choke on your fucking birthday cake, Luke Smith, you fat, uninspired bastard. Anyway, moving on. Now, what a lot of people may not realize yet is Final Fantasy XIV is due for a counter to the power creep problem soon too. Right now it's reaching around the same levels both in character and in item level that Blizzard was at when it first started doing its squishes, somewhere between the levels of Cataclysm and Mist of Pandaria. I'm really interested to see how Yoshi P and the Square Enix team will handle this, because on top of needing endgame redesign, in my opinion, I think Final Fantasy XIV's endgame needs a redesign. This needs to be handled with care. Will they do something with character level? Something interesting with the items? Or will they just go cookie cutter route and just bring all the numbers down? Only time will tell. My opinion on the entire concept, though, of power creep is that it is something that especially theme park MMOs need to keep in mind when they're in their infancy stages of development. I think a lot of developers play it too hard and fast, making trash gear that drops from mobs at the start of an expansion astronomically better right from the get-go from the best of the best rating gear you could get from the previous expansion. I mean, Final Fantasy XIV suffers this with each patch, where crafted gear is so much better than the best Savage gear you could get from just the previous patch. And I think there are far better ways to handle it with your core systems instead of just going to tweaking numbers by default. Maybe we could have, I don't know, more meaningful choices in gear instead of item levels on gear. I think item levels were a huge fucking mistake to ever put on gear. At the very least, making them visible to the player base was a mistake from where I'm standing. I mean, but we have to ask ourselves the question, how does one increase your power in a game from expansion to expansion without going overboard, while simultaneously making the gear and characters themselves matter and the content worth doing? Maybe expansions themselves are a huge problem, because in theme park MMOs like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, Elder Scrolls Online, Destiny 2, etc., they're attempting to be like a season restart of an ARPG, but they aren't working out that way. They're not working as smoothly as they work in ARPGs. They take way longer to come out, they're way larger than a simple season, and kind of serve as a hard reset on the game as a whole each and every time an expansion comes out. Maybe we do away with expansions and just slowly add content in the game monthly or bi-monthly, much in the way old MMOs like the old sandboxes like Assurance Call did, because it's true that expansions exist for old games like EverQuest and Assurance Call, Dark Age Camelot, but in those games, the expansions added to the world, but at the same time didn't trivialize everything that wasn't part of the new expansion pack. The old world was still relevant in every way. Anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on power creep and how it's been handled in specific games? What things you think were good? What things you think sucked ass? I really want to know your opinion. If you have any opinions, complaints, comments, leave them down in the comment section down below. I do stream every Thursday, and look at that, today's Thursday, so I'll be streaming today at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm going to be adding more days at the beginning of September when my real life work schedule changes. If you liked the video, guys, leave a like. It helps me out a lot. If you didn't, I don't care. Go fuck yourself. And as always, my friends, keep it real.